lovely lot, welcome back to Spill the Tea Lou. How are we all doing this very fine evening? I see you are all in the chat saying hello. Everybody's in a great mood. Is it sunny where you guys are today? Everybody's in flying form or about to have a good old chin wag. And it is of course the best time of the day when the teacups get together for a talk. But big up to everybody. Poor Shem was in the chat earlier, and well wishes to Shem's mum, who just had a right old day. I don't know why I have them on my head, but poor Shem's mum had a right old day. They were at the hospital earlier on, and they've been sent off to wait for an appointment. So big love to Shem and Shem's mum. He's going to have a bit of a nap, but he did come in to say hi before the stream and did say hello to all of the lovely teacups, and then said old man Shem is going for a lay down. So big up to Shem and lots of love to Shem's mum. Rob Always United is in the house. Big up to Rob. Moonshine is here. Big up to Moonshine. Rob is full of chat today. Dave is here. Big up to Dave. I'm sure I saw Mama Flossie sneak in there as well. There she is. I see her. Big up to Mama Flossie. Lovely Luke is in the house with us. Everybody's here. Streets is here. Goodness me, the kids are filing in. The teacups are getting into the queue. Big up to Mohammed, who joined us earlier on for the first time on the stream. Big up to Mohammed. Thank you for coming back to us. We didn't scare you off after the first stream, so that's always good news. Big up to Eileen, who is back with us from MHF, so big up to Eileen as well. And it is nice to see everybody. Please do remember, and I don't normally remember to tell you guys this, so I'm quite proud of myself at the moment. Please do remember to hit that like button on your way into the chat. Guest has remembered the most important thing. She's here and she has got tea, which really is all that matters. Tea, talk, teacups. I mean, that's it. That is the epitome of what we all need in life. So big up to all of you guys. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may have not, some of you will have been in here before I've added the thumbnail. We are today going to be talking about Alejandro Garnacho. I know, public enemy numero uno at the minute, not only at Manchester United, but also at Chelsea. And I am asking the question, is Alejandro Garnacho being made a scapegoat at Chelsea? Because the news came out today, magically, after their loss against us, that they would be willing to part ways or let him go or sell him. They're basically happy enough to move Alejandro Garnacho on in the summer, potentially. Okay? Now, we're going to get into all of the things. We're going to talk about all of the stuff. But, have I said hello to everybody? Because Mohammed says it's going to take a lot to scare me off. To be fair, I have seen those MHF chats. If that doesn't scare you, nothing will. We're pretty tame compared to that. We're pretty chilling here compared to that. Big up to Jim. Jim is back with us, obviously, who joined us earlier from United TV with Rich. So big up to Jim, who's also rejoined us. And obviously Jim will have the United point of view when we do come to talk about Garnacho. But big up to all of you guys. Hope you've all had a nice day. I'm in a good mood. I've seen Rob's in a good mood. Hope you're all in a good mood. And obviously, as I said, sending lots of love to Shem and his mummy. But obviously, Manchester United have had a rocky relationship with Alejandro Garnacho. He came, he was the next best thing, he was going to be the next big superstar, he had all the talent, he had all the drive, he had all the ambition, he was like being played, and he was going to be the next star boy. He was going to be the next big name that broke out on the scene and smashed ceilings and was going to be the tippy top of everybody's list, and lucky United that we got him. Obviously then, it didn't quite work out like that. The performances started to decline. There was question marks over the decision making. We all sort of were questioning his mentality, his attitude. His brother was getting involved. The social media stuff. Put things on social media, delete things on social media, like things on social media, unlike things on social media. He's very savvy with the social media. I get the feeling that Garnacho is better than little old me with the technology. And there was the whole incident with Faz, who used to be on the United stand at the time, and no, I might be lying. He might not. This might have been after. Probably, I think it was after he left United stand, but not too long, because that's kind of what most people knew him from. And, he was calling him out. Alejandro was there sort of spending time with the fans, trying to do something nice. And there's Faz, a content creator, also a United fan, but he was there as a content creator, not as a fan, kind of telling him, oh, you need to pass the ball more. And you're kind of going, time and place, probably not the way to get like the message across to a young man. And he is still a young man. He's still only 21. He turns 22 in July. He obviously now has a young baby. He's a little family going on. But a lot has happened with Alejandro Garnacho in the last few years. And we know that the jersey weighs heavy, the jersey of Manchester United. Because we've seen more experienced, older players come to Manchester United and also crumble under the pressure. We also know that the atmosphere and the environment at Manchester United is not necessarily conducive to getting the best out of young players and developing them in the right way. I mean, the reason the term the bomb squad exists is because we were producing this attitude in so many players. We talk all the time about player power, the return of player power under Ollie, player power under Jose, player power under ex-manager, essentially player power ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left, where essentially the inmates were running the asylum, more or less. And I have said on a consistent basis that one of the things I was really happy that Amram was doing is he was starting to clear out that type of attitude. But I am very much someone that would say you become your surroundings. If you are surrounded by something for a prolonged period of time, and that's what you see and that's what you experience and that's the example that's available to you, and that is what's going on around you all of the time, and that's what you are essentially coming of age seeing, because he was coming of age as a footballer and that's what he was seeing, you think that's the norm. You start to mirror the things that you see around you. You become your environment. So I very much think at least a proportion of the blame goes to Manchester United, and there were several other players around him that were doing the same thing, that should have been a bit more mature and were definitely a bit more experienced in the ways of how kind of the Premier League works, and he followed their example. So there is a proportion of the blame that goes on the club because we didn't handle him well and guide him well in his formative years in football. What I would also say is, and again, I always say this, you must also take personal responsibility for your behaviour and the people that represent you and how they behave. So I think, like, realistically, he has to also take a large proportion of the blame himself. And I hold this very much the same attitude for Sancho and for Rashford, and really for Manu, to be fair, and anybody else that was involved in that kind of behaviour. Yes, the environment has a massive, massive impact and you can't overstate that. However, you also must you must take responsibility for yourself as well. I can see the chat is absolutely popping off. Everyone's having a great old chat in there. Oh my goodness, I'm missing loads of the chats. Loads of the chats. I'm going to get stuck into your chats now in a few minutes. I'm going to get stuck into your chats. Don't worry, I am going to come to them now in a little second. I'm going to come back to you. But his attitude started to kind of fester, and as I said, that was partially based on his surroundings, but it was also based on who he was surrounding himself with. So like that, the brother, people that kind of encouraged this ego, people that kind of, he was playing minute after minute after minute after minute under Ten Hag. He was like the man who couldn't be dropped. He was one of the most key players, and obviously then that feeds your ego. When you're playing every minute of the first team for a team like Manchester United, it feeds your ego. You're then surrounded by all of these players that are like, oh, well, we're fantastic. They're giving you a bad example. They're showing bad behaviour and they're getting away with it. You have managers having to come out and apologise to players in press conferences. And then you've Alejandro Garnacho going, I am the dog's bollocks. I am playing all the minutes at Manchester United. I am the next big thing. And the ego eventually just overtook the talent. and it was allowed to fester for so long, sometimes it's very hard then to go back. Sometimes when the lid has been lifted or the can of worms has been opened, it's very, very hard to go back. And he fed into it so much, and he surrounded himself, his entourage of people that fed into it. He believed it. He fully 100% absolutely believed it. And we didn't do anything to stop it. We just let it happen because we were too busy changing managers every 6 months. Because we have so many problems, he was the least of them. We had so many fires that needed to be put out, we didn't have the time to deal with that. And I believe if he was at a club, or he was even at Manchester United at a time where we were able to give him the attention that he needed, I don't think any of us would be in the situation we're in. And I certainly don't think he would be at Chelsea. The thing is, what happens then is he goes to Chelsea. So I'm going to just pause there. I'm going to read some of your chats, and then I'm going to go to the next bit. So let us see. Everybody's saying hi. We got Mohammed. We have Dave. We have Moonshine and Jim. Okay, we've got everybody. Streets is saying, I still retain the opinion that he was amazing under Ten Hag, but his pride was his downfall, as it is for all at the end of the day. Agree with that, absolutely. Mohammed is saying he's a big problem for United and Chelsea. He thinks he's CR7. I think by the end of it, he did. By the end of United, he genuinely started to believe he was the next Ronaldo. He thought, the thing is, he was being heralded as that by some fans. He was being called that. People were saying, I see the similarities from when Ronaldo came through. We see the similarities down the wing. Ronaldo used to lose the ball, but it was okay because he got there in the end. People were out loud on social media making these kind of comparisons. And the thing is, we know he's on social media all the time. So he was seeing them. He was reading them. He was being told this by, his friends and his family and his brother and the people around him. He was being kind of played every minute by the club, and then he's going on social media and seeing people compare him to the person who is his hero in Cristiano Ronaldo. So I do think it got to the point where he did believe he was Cristiano Ronaldo. He thought he was he was the regen Cristiano Ronaldo, which obviously has not proven to be the case, but he did not pluck that out of thin air by himself. That was being said by people, loads of people. I saw it myself. So I think, we as fans, we get carried away. And that's normal. Fans are allowed to get carried away. Do you know what I mean? But the problem is when the players start to believe it. When the players start to buy into it. When there's nobody there to keep them grounded. Either in the club or in their inner circle. You need good people. I don't think he has them. And I don't think we provided them as a club. I definitely think he fed into himself. Dave here is saying 21-year-old child shouldn't be having children. I am not going to judge anybody for what age they opt to have children. I think it's a very personal choice, and I don't think it's up to anybody else what age somebody should have children. I understand the sentiment of what you're saying, but I don't think that's any of my business what age other people have children at, unless they're like underage and it's illegal. Outside of that, it's not my business. I'm not going to be passing judgment. To be fair, Dave does follow it up by saying he was too immature when he had kids. And that's it. It's so personal and subjective. I'm not getting into that debate at all. This is football. Football is controversial enough. I'm definitely not getting into what age people should have kids at. Big up to Jenny, who says, hello, teacups and our fearless leader. Big up to Jenny. Luke says that's his final thought. What final thought? I didn't see your first thought, Luke. Give us some more thoughts. One isn't enough. I don't even know what it was. Let me see. Irish Pit Terrier in the house. Big up for joining us. Obviously, as with Jim has come across from Rich earlier today. I was wondering why you were just saying randomly Irish in the middle of the comments, Dave. I thought you were talking about me, but I understand. Jenny is at work, so if she doesn't directly reply to everybody, don't take it personal. She's at work. She's pretending to work. She's working hard. She's working harder than the rest of us right now. Dave says he is a petulant, spoilt kid millionaire two young 18-year-olds are doing proper jobs even in the army. Streets is saying the thing is, under Erik ten Hag, his stats were actually at one point better than Ronaldo's at 18-19, so I understand the hype. And I also understand the hype because he was showing signs that he was going to be very, very important. Mohammed, have you become a member and it hasn't popped up? You've gone green on my screen. Let me check this out. YouTube's having an almighty time of it at the minute. Flossie was here yesterday putting in comments and I couldn't see them until Dib started talking to her and I couldn't see her. Yeah, big up to Mohammed. Can we just get a massive, massive shout out to Mohammed in the chat, please? Because first of all, it absolutely flew under my radar. Second of all, YouTube has absolutely missed a beat there. Big up to Mohammed on not only becoming an official one of us, but becoming a T-Titan. So big shout out to Mohammed. Give him some love in the chat, people, because YouTube has failed to tell us that Mohammed has become officially one of us, which is a massive, massive deal. We have another T-Titan at our tea party, which is absolutely sensational. So big up to Mohammed. Welcome to being officially one of us, an official member of the tea party, and we're delighted to have you. And I apologise I didn't shout that out before. YouTube normally pops up with, it tells you when somebody becomes a member. It didn't come up. It was only that I saw you were green. I was like, he's green. So shout out to Mohammed and apologies for not shouting it out earlier, and down with that sort of thing for YouTube. Disgraceful. Streets is saying, in terms of Garnacho, he was just a young man that lacked discipline, but he was hardworking under Ten Hag. I do remember then 24-25 arrived. I agree with Streets, and I'm probably a bit less hardline than some of the people, certainly in the chat, and some of the people that I've seen in kind of the wider online fan base. Following his stunts on social media, following like the Villa jersey and all the comments and all the different things, I did have a bit of a fallout with him that he doesn't know about, obviously. And, when he went to Chelsea, I was like, well, I hope he doesn't do well when he's leaving under a cloud like that. But then you have to remember, just as a human being, he is a young man. He is in an incredibly unusual situation. He clearly doesn't have the right people around him, and we all react differently in different situations. And he did show well under Erik ten Hag, and he did have talent, and he did have the ability, and his problem was his ego, and there was nobody there to help him with that, clearly. So I agree with Streets. He was a young man that lacked discipline. And he's still a young man. I know in football in terms he's a little bit older now, but I mean, he's like, no harm. Do you see, when I was 21, I was thick as a brick, lads. When I was 21, I did all sorts of stupid stuff. I'm sure I was also egotistical. I'm sure I was also like, do you know what I mean? When I was 21, I was absolutely stupid. I did and said stupid things. I'm sure I had stupid stuff on my social media. The thing is, there wasn't as many people looking at me, so it didn't matter. And I was also very lucky that I had very, very good people around me that guided me through, that patch we all go through, our rite of passage into like proper adulthood. I'm not a proper adult, but you get what I mean. So the more time that passes, the less angry I am with him, which obviously isn't the case for a lot of people, but it's where I'm at with him. Sam is in the house. Hey Lou and legends, Garnacho is going to Arsenal for 50p. Dave agreed to the deal. For the greater good, says Sam. Mohammed is not only a T-Titan, but is about to hit us with an unpopular opinion. It's going to be an unpopular opinion, but Ineos have done a lot of good getting rid of players who are toxic for the club. They have improved slightly in that regard. There is still a lot of work to be done. I agree with that, Mohammed. I think that is correct. Because, frankly, under the Glazers, I'm not sure the bomb squad would have been dismantled. We don't know. Maybe it would have been. But based on their track record to that point, I don't think so. So no, I agree. You can dislike somebody, you can think they're bad owners and still call it out when you see them do a good thing. I don't think Amram was the manager to bring Manchester United forward, but I can see the good things he did. It can be both. Don't you worry about that, Mohammed. What else are we saying? Yes, Rob noticed as well. Rob noticed at the time I did. Mohammed is green. That Dave's always doing dodgy deals. Big up to Neil Driscoll. Welcome into the chat, Neil. And guys, Neil would have seen me. Do you remember I told you I started doing call-in shows on a channel called FUTV? That's how I know Guess. But Neil would have been on that channel quite regularly. So I'm so glad he's found us, and big up to Neil for joining the chat. Everybody's saying hi. Yes, he is green. I'm so glad I noticed that. I would have felt so guilty if I didn't notice on this stream. Big up to Harold. Harold has joined us, the very lovely Harold. Jim says, Garnacho for me had to go when he put another team shirt on. It was unacceptable. I completely agree, Jim. I completely 100% agree with you. Absolutely. For me, that was also the line. Guess is saying there is now competition among the Tea Titans. Who will be the last Titan standing? Hopefully all of them. We love all our Tea Titans. Harold says, we have a tendency of making scapegoats out of some unlucky individuals. And that is what we're going to move to next. So I'm going to just read through the last few comments there, and then we are going to move across, because obviously Garnacho moved across from Manchester United to Chelsea, and I want to talk about that move across. I want to talk about what's happened, how it's playing out, the news that's coming out today, and why I've titled the video the way I have, because I don't think it was United that scapegoated him. I think United punished his poor behaviour. I think we had a part in creating the bad behaviour, and then we dealt with it the only way we could when it was too far gone. But I do think there's some scapegoating going on now, which I'm going to explain in just a moment. But yeah, I agree with that, Harold. We do. We kind of hone in on some people and pick on them a little bit. And Neil is saying Garnacho is not United's problem anymore. That he is not, Neil, and thank goodness for that. And that's the one thing I will say. It's not that I want him back. It's not that I'm saying, oh, poor Garnacho, let's bring him back. That's not what I'm saying. I just think sometimes things are a little bit more complicated than if they first appear. And Rob is saying, we Tea Titans are here to guard Lou. Love it. Flossie has a very important question to all of the lovely teacups in the chat. Have you hit the like button? Because what is not to like? We're having the best of times. Sam is saying, I'm waiting for Garnacho to turn up in an Accrington Stanley top. Do you know what I think he's going to do? The way he's moving on social media. I think he's going to turn up in a United top, if I'm honest with you. That's the way I see it going. Berba is in, who is another. We've loads of lovely people coming in. So big up to Berba. I saw you in the chat earlier on United TV. Thank you for being here, and has popped in to drop a like, which is the best way to pop in, really. So big up to you. Just everybody saying hi. Dave is saying, when I was 21, no social media for me. You're better off. You are better off. JT is in the house. Big up to JT, who says he seems like that kind of player that could actually flourish under a Fergie at United, but both the coaching situations at United and Chelsea aren't great for a player like that with a complicated ego. JT, I completely agree with that. I absolutely 100% agree with that. What Garnacho needs is really, really good man management. And I'm not being funny, right? There's no player bigger than any club, and I didn't like Garnacho's attitude. However, Sir Alex Ferguson had several divas that played under him. He had several divas, and he dealt with all of them, and he got the best out of all of them. And I agree with you. Somebody who was a really, really good man manager like that could pull the best out of him, because there is more to get. So I completely agree with that 100%. Berba is also saying, pleasure to be here. You're a really good listen. Lots of respect. Thank you very much. I'll take all the compliments. But yes, so obviously things came to an end. And Garnacho, basically, there was a rift, not a rift, but there was a disagreement within our fan base whether we should allow Garnacho to go to Chelsea, who would be seen as a rival for us. A Champions League rival, a rival in the Premier League. We're in and around the same spots. a direct rival. And people did wonder, including myself, about the sensibility of letting him go to another club that was essentially a direct rival for us. Because if he had gone to Chelsea and it had worked out, we would have been with egg on our face, because we see it all of the time. When players leave United, they get better. And this was actually a rhetoric for several months, even at the start of this season, around Hoyland. McTominay did that interview saying, no, well, it's not the club, and everybody was super duper surprised that he didn't rip the club apart, except United fans, because he loves United. And I just think I understand and I understood the concerns, and I think it was a risky move, but actually, United got this one right, because he hasn't really presented a threat to us. But it wasn't just the United fan base that was quite torn about this move. The Chelsea fan base, from what I saw online, was quite torn as well, quite separated on whether they wanted him or not. So there were some Chelsea fans that were, trying to make the best of it, that were saying, look, he's a talented guy, we can get the best out of him, United isn't a good environment for young players, if he comes to Chelsea he'll improve, we will get out of Alejandro Garnacho what Manchester United couldn't. And then there was the other Chelsea fans that didn't want him from the get-go. There were the Chelsea fans that said from the beginning, before the move even happened, we don't want this guy. He's not the right age, he's not the right profile, he's not the right personality. We are sick of buying young, developmental, potential players. We need ready-made, proven players. We are sick of this model. He is not the guy for us. We don't want Manchester United's cast-offs. We've seen his behaviour on social media. This is going to be a problem we don't need. We don't want him. So it was very fractured in both fan bases, whether he was good, not good, etc., etc. And Sam there, who is obviously a Chelsea fan, is saying, I didn't want him at all purely because of the attitude, which is completely fair because his attitude stinks. I was one of the people who was kind of saying to Chelsea fans, look, his attitude does stink. I'm happy to see the back of him at Man United because of the jersey thing, actually, as Neil said. That was the one that tipped it over the edge for me. However, I do believe he's talented, and I do believe in the right environment, he can be a better player than what he has shown for us in recent times. We saw a glimpse of it under Erik ten Hag, and then we lost it. Between us, we lost it. Maybe he will go somewhere else, and he will reignite that and he will become better. What I think he needs is, first of all, to drop the ego, and he needs somebody to help him with the decision making in the final third. And I spoke about this, I can't remember what day, with Sesko. I said, who is he learning from? Who is he learning from? Who is teaching him these things? It's one thing learning on the job. You need somebody to help you with the bit you don't know. And I think if Garnacho found the right head coach, the right team, I do believe there's more in him. But he needs to wind down the ego and he needs to find the right environment. And I agree with, I think it was Street said it earlier, Chelsea's not the right place for him. I agree, because the turmoil that they're in, while it's not the same as what Manchester United were going through, it's not dissimilar. It's very turbulent. It's a lot of developmental players. It's a lot of change of managers. There's no stability and there's nobody to guide him. So all the problems he was experiencing at Manchester United, he is now experiencing at Chelsea, which was exactly the thing that sent him off the rails in the first place. So I think it was a bad move. And so the final boss here is saying Garnacho is not a scapegoat, he is just bad. And the thing is, even if you think Garnacho is just bad, even if you disagree with me entirely that there's not more to get out of him and that, this is his ceiling and that's just the way it is, that is completely fair enough, because what you rate and don't rate is very subjective. So I'm not going to argue that point. The reason I'm suggesting he's being scapegoated, and this is the crux of it, the reason I am suggesting he's being scapegoated is because there are so many problems at Chelsea. They want their owners out. The only phrase I hear more than Glazers out, and speaking of Glazers out, I haven't seen Lucky today, so I hope Lucky's around and he's okay. But I've actually seen Blueco out just as much as I've seen Glazers out, okay? That is quite strong. That is a strong sentiment, okay? They've had manager after manager after manager after manager. We've obviously seen all of the players coming out. I know Enzo got punished, but Cucurella was quite strong in what he said, that the players loved Maresca. They didn't know Maresca was going to be let go. They didn't understand why Maresca was let go, and that while they like Liam Roseno, it's very hard to start over again, particularly when it's mid-season. We've also talked about all of the red cards that they were receiving, the indiscipline of the players, problem after problem after problem, indiscipline, change of managers, bad ownership, bad, by most people's standards, recruitment strategy, chaos on the inside, turbulence on the inside, problems on the inside, rumours, and I know he's put them to bed now, but weeks and weeks of rumours that Cole Palmer was going to be leaving. One thing after another, after another, after another. And now all of a sudden, Garnacho's the problem. Garnacho's the problem. And I'm not saying all Chelsea fans are saying this. I feel like it's what the club are doing. Because see rumours that come out like what come out today. Oh, well, Chelsea are open to selling Alejandro Garnacho. Do you know where that comes from? Chelsea. We see it with Manchester United all the time. These clubs put out what they want to go out. That has come from the club. Because it's very easy to take the naughty child, the child that already has a bad reputation from Manchester United, the one that's causing problems deleting Everton from Chelsea on his social media, the one who hasn't had the best of performances. And I think it's easy to throw him under the bus. When it's like, we see this all the time with managers. The manager's the problem. We talked about it with Spurs. It was everything was Thomas Frank's fault. You just had to get rid of Thomas Frank. Just get rid of Thomas Frank. Anyone but Thomas Frank. Then they got Igor Tudor, and it was anyone but Igor Tudor. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not experienced. He's the problem. Get rid of him. He's the reason they're going to go down. Except it was the same thing under the manager previous. People have this need to blame someone or something. It's easy. And so the club puts it out there. He's not performing well. He's messing around on social media. We already know he's a bit of a bad attitude kid. It's easy to put it out there. We don't really want him anymore. It hasn't worked out. We're moving him on. And when Alejandro Garnacho is gone from Chelsea, everything's going to be okay. Which is ridiculous. I also did feel for him slightly, only slightly, and it's easy to say this because we won. If we'd lost and he'd scored the goal, I wouldn't feel sympathy for him whatsoever. It's easy in my position now, having won, to be able to say that I feel sorry for him. But I did feel sorry for him after the match against Manchester United, because obviously Luke Shaw put up the picture on social media of him basically flinging Alejandro Garnacho to the side, and all of the United players are in the comments and they're all laughing and joking and they're having a bit of crack, and you know, it's all a bit of banter, kind of. And while I completely understand where they're coming from, and I did laugh when I saw it, I did then go and look at the footage from the end of the match, and like, there was parts of the United fans that were booing him. There was part of the Chelsea fans that were booing him. The United players acted as if he didn't exist when they were leaving the pitch. And none of his teammates tried to comfort him. Not one that I saw of his teammates went to him as a young man who has now had two very turbulent experiences at two very turbulent, problematic clubs, who had clearly had a difficult experience getting booed by both sides, who had the world at his feet and then it was ripped out from under him, and nobody went to him. And I thought, I'm not expecting the United players to go to him because he's not their teammate anymore. But if that was my club, if Chelsea was my club and he was one of my players, even though he does stupid things, I would have wanted one of them to check that he's okay. Because there's a big difference between thinking he's a bit egotistical and he's not going to work out and you kind of want him to move on from your club, and being a human being. That's a lot. I don't know how I would handle that, getting booed from both sides, everybody pretending you don't exist, people who were your colleagues and your friends don't want anything to do with you. You're the butt of all the jokes. And I know, look, people are probably saying, I haven't read the comments and I'm going to. I think some people in the comments, and I'm guessing, are probably saying, well, he's brought it on himself, he's a grown adult, he needs to deal with it. And I understand that sentiment, I do, because sometimes I'm quite hardline like that. But I feel like he's had no proper guidance from anybody at either of the clubs he's been at, from his inner circle, and I think he's floundering in an environment a lot of us will never understand, because being a professional footballer in the Premier League is incredibly unique. Other jobs might have more jeopardy, you know, a nurse or a doctor or a firefighter. I'm not saying it's on that level. However, you're on a world stage. The world's eyes are on you. It's a lot. It is a lot just as a human being. So I did feel from a little bit. And again, I just felt like Garnacho was not the reason that Chelsea lost against Manchester United. He was not the reason. He might have been a reason. He might have been a contributing factor. He was not the reason. I mean, several times this season, I've seen United fans taking the mick out of how few minutes Garnacho was played, taking the mick out of the fact that he left us to play Champions League football and there he is on the bench. So you can't then blame him for everything that's happening at Chelsea. And that's what it feels a little bit like. He's the problem. He's causing it all. And as I said, it's not everybody, and I know it's not everybody, but it has that vibe at the minute. And that's what I mean when I say a scapegoat. I think he's being blamed for more than his part because it's easy. But I have gone on and on and on and on and on and on. So let me read some of your comments, because I've had a right good go at that. Right, let me see what you guys are saying. Oh yes, to be fair, Sam, I do agree with that. Sam is saying we suddenly had team leaks. I wonder who. Suddenly he changes his social media after Rosenio says he sorted it. I do believe he was the leak. That much I do believe, because literally we were having it and then he went there and then you were having it. So I do believe he was the leak. That much I will. Yeah, that's probably was his. Streets is saying, I remember how good he was on his United debut against Sheriff. Truly miss the humble version of him. Me too. He had the world at his feet and he contributed to his own demise. Absolutely. Dave is saying, I would have liked to see Roy Keane pointing him in the right direction on the pitch with a right hook. Yeah. To be fair though, like, I know Roy has a reputation for being about rough and ready, but Roy Keane was a part of training and developing and guiding youth players, and we don't know how some of those players would have turned out if they didn't have a strong personality like Roy Keane keeping them in line. We don't know how some of those players that we really like would have turned out. There is no Roy Keane in the dressing room. There's nobody guiding them the way Roy Keane would have guided them. So I know you're taking the mickey a little bit, but I actually do think it's an important point. JT is saying, for his sake, he should move out of the limelight and eat some humility soup, and he can revive his career or become a big fish in a small pond, and that's going to be his happy ceiling. Do you know what? I think he would be happy if he was a big fish in a small pond, if I'm totally honest with you. I think he would just enjoy being the big fish. Yeah, I haven't seen Lucky for a few days either, Rob. Maybe he's taking a few days off. Maybe he's enjoying some of that sun. What else are you guys saying? Dave is saying, I hate that City song, the Glazers are staying 10 more years. Yeah, 100%. Jenny is saying, honest question, no banter, can you teach decision making, or is that innate football IQ? That's a great question from Jenny. That's a poll is what that is. A sensational question. Can you teach... Where's it gone? I've lost it. I had it and it's gone. It ran away on me. And why? That was a really good one. Oh yes. Can you teach decision making, or it is innate? Okay. You can teach it? No, you are born with it. That's a great poll. Big up to Jenny. I like that. I like that a lot. For my part, while you guys are getting involved in that fantastic poll that Jenny has come up with, I think yes to a point. So I think you can, the same way as I'm not sure hard work and study can ever really overcome natural intelligence. But then you have that phrase, what is it? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So if somebody is not necessarily as naturally good at making those kind of final third decisions, I think you can teach them to an extent. But I think if somebody has it naturally, it will always come quicker. It'll come a half second better. It might look smoother. I think you can teach it to a point. And I think he has talent. So I think if you could teach him to a point, I think the rest would come from him naturally. But that part hasn't been unlocked yet because it's never been looked at. I think he has it inside him. And if somebody took the time to sort of start teaching him, the rest would come. I believe. But I do think if somebody has it naturally, it's always going to be better because it comes easier, if that makes sense. Mohammed is saying all those big contracts they gave their players, the long ones, yeah. After all those long contracts. JT is saying, for me the interesting thing with Chelsea is that might be proven wrong after the summer, but with all the problems we perceive with Chelsea from the outside, it does seem the players actually want to stay. I will say, well, obviously Reece James signed his new contract, and it does very much seem that Cole Palmer wants to stay 100%. I think Enzo does want to go. Cucurella was definitely fighting for it. He was definitely fighting for it. So I agree with you, JT. Even with all the problems, it does seem that a large proportion of the players do actually seem to want to stay, which is very interesting. And as you say, it'll be a watch and brief within the summer to see what happens there. Jerry is saying... Oh, in reply to Jenny. So Dave thinks some people have football IQ and some don't. Yes, like we love Lucky. He loves United, but he's very fair with other teams. You know what? I just think Lucky is so passionate about football. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And he's such a fantastic part of the community because he's always just so happy and full of news. I love it. Absolutely love it. Dave says, are the rumours true about Newcastle? Mama Flossie has taken over from Eddie Howe. She'd whip them all into shape. She'd sort them out. To be fair, Jenny says that she's also not 100% sure. I think that sometimes are the best questions come from. When you haven't fully decided yourself, that's where the best questions come from because you're open to both sides. You're open to both points. So I think that's quite good. Streets is saying Chelsea was the worst possible place for him to go. They have no leaders. And I agree with that. And again, it's not an opportunity to just like have a dig at Chelsea. I've often said this. Sometimes it can be like a good player, a good club and a bad combination. And I think regardless of what you think about Chelsea or Garnacho individually, I think as a combination, what he needed and what they needed didn't match up. It just didn't match up. I didn't think it was a good match. Mohammed is saying it's crazy all the fans that booed him. Never seen both teams boo the same player. And to be honest, Mohammed, that's really what got me thinking. He was getting booed from both sides. Like, that's rough. That is rough. Streets is saying, I think he should leave England, to be honest. I think that might be the best thing for him, you know. I really do think that's the best thing for him. To reignite his career and potentially to help him. Let me see. Sam is saying he should have left for Spain or Italy. He never should have stayed in the Premier League, but Chelsea fans should support him as he is a Chelsea player. I agree with that, Sam. I can understand a Chelsea fan saying, look, I hope in the summer he's moved on, but until the summer, I'm going to cheer him on, because if he does well, it means my club is doing better, and that's what I want. So that's how I would see it. That would be my take. But look, as we know, everybody is different. And I also think, see if he went to, like, look at what, like, Anthony has done since he has left. He's like a superstar over there in Best. I think, like, they're practically parades around him. So I think if he went to another league, he could be a superstar. Like what he wanted. I don't think he's ever going to get that in the Premier League. Streets is saying, on an empathetic level, he's had an unlucky career, to be honest. Started fairly well, then the manager issues arrived, and it's gone downhill since then. Huge is saying, I do agree, no matter how much of a P-Rick anyone is, there should always be someone to look out for you and have a support system. Also, I would like to let everyone know I do know how to say that word properly. Just because of YouTube, I don't want to get myself demonetized. They're a bit funky about words you can and can't say. So just to let everyone know, I do say some words weird. That one's not one of them. Just so everybody knows. But yeah, you need someone. Also, big up to Huge for being here. He's straight in with the comments. I didn't even say hi to him properly. So all the T-Titans are currently present for duty. Sam is saying, I support him as he's my club's player, but he shouldn't have come. Whoever is advising him is rubbish. Agreed. And you want to know what the thing is? He is with an agency, but his dad is heavily involved in the agency that he's with. So I think his dad was heavily involved in the move, and I think maybe, and I don't know, so this is entirely judgmental, but maybe the dad was looking at the euro symbols or the pound symbols or whatever currency they use at home, and wasn't really thinking about what was best for him. Maybe he thought he would make it and they'd stick the middle finger up at Man United together. You don't know, but I think I agree, I think it was poor advice. Really poor advice. Huge is saying, I think you can teach it, but it doesn't mean everyone can learn it. Excellent. How deep is that? That's excellent. You can teach it, but not everyone can learn. I agree. I fully agree. That's very good. Streets is saying, decision, and this is kind of along the similar lines, decision making can be taught, but footballing intelligence is key. And that's it. Kind of, there's some things that are inherent that you need to make the other bits work. And Sam is saying, experience counts a huge amount. It's easier if it's natural. Again, I completely agree. Rob is reminding everybody to please hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed and got involved in the chat, please do so. We're having a great LT party. This is a really good one. I didn't know how this would go down with people. I thought it was an interesting topic. I didn't know how it would go down. And I'm very impressed with everybody. I think we're having a proper grown-up conversation. Look at us go. It's not like us. We're normally in fits of laughing at this point. What else are we saying? Mohammed is saying, Jordan Henderson or James Milner are great examples. They don't have talent, but they worked very hard. Oh, I'm laughing because they'd be so pleased with that. It's one of those, it's a compliment, but it's not. Dave is saying, I have a young geezer who works for me as a labourer. I can't teach him scaffolding for love nor money. He's a nice guy, but he would be dangerous to even give him an apprenticeship. And see, that's fair. And I think that was the point of the day from Huge. It can be taught, but not everybody can learn it. I think that's a really good one. Yes, Sam. Caicedo has signed a contract extension. I saw that the other day. I did see that the other day, and then so much has happened we haven't got to talk about it. But yes, Caicedo did. Do you know what? Since we've brought it up, it's come up naturally. Let's talk about it. Caicedo contract. I think that's a new contract. I don't know if you've given him more money, but let us see. So, Chelsea midfielder Moises Caicedo has signed a lucrative 7-year contract extension. Bloody that will keep him at Stamford Bridge until 2033. Caicedo has agreed improved terms that make him one of the club's top earners, rewarding his impressive form for the Blues since arriving from Brighton in 2023. there you go, Sam. There is all of the news for you, my dear. Because I did see it. I did not see that it was another 7 years. I did not know that was another 7 years. Definitely not. Definitely not. That's cray. Cray. You guys are having the best of times. Oh dear. Streets is saying, could just head back to Spain and restart. He might do that. If Chelsea decide they're going to move him on, he might do that. Yeah, JT, it is a good question. Big question. So Dave wanted to know who P. Rick was and when he was joining the team. Jim is saying, right, let me see. Guys, I am magical. I've caught up with the chat. That's how fast I talk. Jim says, I think United was not the best club for Garnacho to start his career. Maybe somewhere like Villa where he could have come through slower and more humble. United was too big for him. Agree, Jim, completely. And it's little things that change the course of careers and lives, 100%. Kai said, can I tell you how to spell his name? Not the way I spelled it. So according to Google, it's Caicedo. I put an extra I in there. So this is apparently how you spell it. Oh, there you go. JT beat me too. I hadn't read down that far. My bad. JT says, decision making is similar to leadership or character traits in general. You can develop them consciously, but you are never catching up to people who developed it with intangibles growing up. Completely agree. 100%. Here, I can share this link here. It's just, I just Googled it. Let me see. This is supersport.com and I can pop it in the chat for you there. God damn it. I think this is a long link, but it'll get you to the right spot, Mohammed. There you go. That there will bring you to the news about Caicedo. Yes, Streets. Brighton sounds like a club that would have been good for Garnacho. Agree. Completely agree. That link in the chat, guys, is the news on Caicedo if anyone wants to look into it. And yes, let us see the poll. Let us see the poll because it is a tough question. And big up to Jenny for getting it in there. And can you teach decision making or is it innate? So 64% of people said you can teach it. 36% of you have said, no, you're born with it. And I think it probably does come down to that. You can teach it, but you're probably never going to get to the same level as somebody who was just born with it. I think that is probably what it's come down to. But I think, do you know what? It's probably best for both Chelsea and Garnacho if they do sell him this summer. I think it's best for Garnacho if he goes somewhere that is not the Premier League. I think if he goes to somewhere like a Spain, he could become what he wanted. And I think he needs to surround himself with better people. I think that's a big thing. Guess is off to sleep. A big up to Guess. Have a good rest and enjoy the baking tomorrow. I just also want to say, and Sam, you just cover your ears for this a little bit. You just don't listen to this bit. According to Ben Jacobs, since game week 26, Chelsea are second bottom in the Premier League's form table with just one win in 8 games. Only Spurs is in worse form than Chelsea since mid-February. That's not ideal for the Chelsea fans. That is not ideal. Not ideal. Only Spurs are in worse form since mid-February than Chelsea. And that's where I have to say that is not all on Garnacho. He may be contributing, but I mean, that's not on any one player. It's not. So yes, I think it's best for everybody to part ways. I feel sorry for him when some of his own fan base are kind of making he's the one. Yeah. And Sam, sorry, I feel like I've broken bad news to Sam, who did not know that. Apologies, Sam. I like to bring you new factoids when I find them, but they're not always happy ones. Normally it's Shem's Day I ruin with my little facts. Normally it's Shen's day that I ruin with my little facts. I'm very sorry, Sam, who says that is on the ownership. And I agree with you. I completely agree with you because everything starts at the top. Completely agree. Mohammed says, don't worry, Chelsea can get points off us. Sam is going to take you up with that offer. 100%. And JT is correct and right. Today is a big one for the relegation battle, which reminds me, it is 4 minutes to 8, guys. It is 4 minutes to 8. Crystal Palace West Ham are about to kick off at 8 o'clock, which means that is the end of our stream. Thank you all very much for being here. We had some fantastic new Teacup subscribers. We have a new addition to our Tea Titan crew. Big up to Mohammed. Big up to everybody for being here. A fantastic chat and a really nice chat. You know, different opinions, different takes, but no abuse, no nastiness, just an actual conversation. Absolutely loved it. You're all just absolutely fantastic. I am off to watch the game. Have a lovely evening. I will see you all back here hopefully tomorrow at 12. And if you're not watching the football, I still hope you enjoy your evening. Have a good one, everybody.